This is part 2 of the listening skill, comprehending to dialogues and conversations. So, the contents which we are going to explore in this video are the strategies of listening. What do you mean by successful listening? Steps for active listening, dialogues and conversation. What do you mean by a dialogue and what is a conversation? How you're going to comprehend towards the dialogues and conversations. What are the strategies, or how you will be able to respond, comprehend when you are listening to a dialogue or a conversation. We will be concluding it with some suggestions. Shall we move? Listening strategies. There are two types of listening strategies: the top down strategy and the bottom up strategy. The top down strategy is contextual based, it is based on the context which is to be discussed. But the bottom up strategy is based on the linguistic knowledge of the language, linguistic knowledge of the language. So it will be concerned with the vocabulary, the word order, everything. Okay, let us see what is top down strategies are. It is actually listener based. The listener relies on the background knowledge of the topic. So the listener will always be prepared on seeing the topic. The mind will always prepare itself to listen to the context. Okay, then the text type and the language which is used in the listening activity. They help the listener to interpret the ideas he has listened. Okay, for the top down strategy helps the listener to interpret the ideas, to reveal his understanding of what has he has listened. Okay, and he will be listening for the main idea. He will be able to predict, and he will be able to make comparisons, drawing inference, and he will be able to summarize what he has heard. This is the top down strategy. Next, we are going to see what is bottom up strategy of listening. These are text based according to the language which is used, the way the language is used. Okay, listeners use linguistic knowledge to understand the information. So they will be concentrating on the vocabulary used, the sentence structure, the grammar which is used. So let us see. The listener relies on the language, on the message, listening to the combination of sounds, words, and grammar to arrive at the final message. So he will be using the language, whether it is proper or not, whether it is in a correct way, it is pronounced, the pronunciation, everything is taken into consideration in the bottom up strategy. Next, concentrate on specific details while listening, recognize word order patterns, how it has been ordered properly, the coherence, everything is seen in the bottom up strategies. So there are two strategies of listening. One is top down strategy, which is contextual, and the bottom up strategy, which is language based, that is the linguistic knowledge of the listener is tested in this listening strategy. Next, the listening to comprehend. So we always listen to respond. Yes, so it is an interactive interpretive process. So whenever we listen, we will be answering. If you are not able to answer, at least you mentally you will be processing it and giving some answers for what you are listening. Listeners apply both their prior knowledge and linguistic knowledge in understanding messages. So when we have to comprehend, when we have to answer to what we have listened, it becomes interactive interpretive process. Next, we will be we will be using both the top down strategies and the bottom up strategies to comprehend what we have listened to. What do you mean by successful listening? So when you listen to somebody, how you will understand, you will be able to understand that you have listened properly. So there are certain things which will authenticate your listening, right? What are those points which you have to remember that you have listened properly? You will be able to absorb the information, you will be able to understand the information and absorb it. Due to absorption, you will be able to retain it. So you will be able to retain more information if you are able to understand and absorb the information. Next, there will be an interest created. So when initially you are not interested in some topic, and after listening to the topic and the way it has been presented, naturally instigates or may make you listen more to the topic. So when you start listening and you are actively listening and you are properly listening, it will definitely increase your interest in the topic. Next, responses are matched to the situation. So if it is a mental response or a verbal response, you will be able to answer according to the situation or according to what you have listened. This will increase your ability to communicate properly and in the understanding level. Okay, it increases the likelihood of solving conflicts. So if you have to solve something, you will be able to solve it only if you are able to understand it and absorb it and process it in your mind to find a solution for it. You will be more effective in using the language. So all these will are the results of successful listening. If you have listened to something successfully and properly, this will be the result of listening successfully. What are the steps for active listening? So you have to be a successful listener. So for that, what are the steps you can follow when you are listening? So when in this current era, you can be listening to a speaker who is standing in front of you, or listening to some activity which is online. So in both the cases, you take the points which are relevant to the case with the situation. Okay, you have to face the speaker and maintain an eye contact. Then only your concentration and focus will be on the on what the person is speaking and how you have to listen. You have to be attentive, but you can be relaxed. Keep an open mind. So when you know the topic, you will be having your own ideas. But having your own ideas is good, but you should not expect the same from the speaker. So when you are open minded, your listening will be more enhanced. Listen to the words and try to picture what the speaker is saying. Okay, listen to the words properly. Only if you are able to picturize it, you will be able to retain the information which you have listened. That is a wonderful step to follow. While you are listening, you have to picturize what you are listening. Then don't interrupt and don't get into distractions. If you are distracted, you will not be able to listen properly, and there will be blocks when you are listening. Wait for the speaker to pause to ask clarifying questions. So there can be instances where the speaker will be stopping and asking you questions. Wait for the speaker to pause. So let him stop speaking, then start asking the questions. Give the speaker regular feedback. So by non-verbal cues, and you should not be disturbing in between. With the non-verbal cues, you can definitely give your feedback. Pay attention to what isn't said to non-verbal cues, how the speaker is speaking, what are the actions he is involving in. So with these, you will be able to understand the context better. For what do you mean by a dialogue and conversation? First, let us understand the meaning of what is a dialogue and conversation for us to comprehend what the dialogues and conversations which we receive. Dialogue is always between two persons. Most part of the dialogue includes questions and answers, requests and information. We will be talking to another person. Either we will be asking question or we will be answering the question which they have asked. And we will be either making requests, please take that or this. And you will also be passing on information. Did you know that this person is, so the dialogue between two persons is no, the dialogue is between two persons. Okay, and dialogue is a conversational exchange between two people. It is conversational, as well as it is based on the words which we speak. Okay, so dialogue is a conversational exchange between two people, and dialogue is for purpose. We will not be speaking to another person without any purpose. We will be having a purpose when we are speaking. But a conversation, on the other hand, is between two or more conversants. So the conversation will start when there are more than two, or between two persons also. It is interactivity occurs as response reaction. So for every conversation. For every dialogue there will be a response reaction to what has previously been said. Spontaneity occurs because a conversation must proceed to some extent and in some way unpredictably. So we don't know when the conversation will end, okay, but a dialogue will end as soon as I ask a question and I receive an answer. But in conversation, it will proceed. It cannot be predicted when it will end. Only after the two persons or more than two persons definitely think that we have to close the conversation, then only the conversation will end. So we can see that dialogues can be formal as well as informal, and conversations can also be formal and informal. That is, when you are talking to your friend, it is a dialogue. When you're chatting with your friends together, they are just conversations. But in a informal situations, dialogues between a interviewer and an interviewee, or the conversation in group discussions, all these are in the formal setting. So we will be able to we have to comprehend when you are in a conversation more than in a dialogue. So what are the tips which we can follow to comprehend dialogues and conversations? You have to focus, you have to pay your attention when someone else is speaking to you, or when you are seeing two persons speaking with each other. You have to practice active listening skills and pay attention to the structure of what has been told, in what way it has been uttered. Then anticipate the speaker's next point. Okay, if you know the topic, you will be anticipating the next point of the speaker. Then identify the supporting elements, that is the non-verbal cues and other ways in which the speaker is giving the idea. Next, make mental summaries. Always summarize what has been told. So what you have listened has to be summarized in your mental process. Then listen for keywords and the key phrases or markers which will help you to comprehend to dialogues and conversations. Always be positive, concerned and sincere while you're listening. So with this, expose yourself to more listening activities, know the context of listening text and the purpose, use the bottom up processes and the top down processes to comprehend. Though it is a challenge to be a good listener, but good listeners get big rewards. I suggest you all to just go inside these websites to have a wonderful learning activity based learning for your listening and speaking skills. These three were really wonderful repositories of to encourage learners enhance their listening skills. Thank you. All the best. Happy listening.